If you follow tech news at all, you've probably seen recent headlines like these. Spotify accuses Apple of using App Store approval process as a weapon to harm competitors. Apple says Spotify seeks to keep all benefits of App Store without making any contributions to Marketplace. Spotify files antitrust complaint over Apple tax, and Apple to be formally investigated over Spotify's antitrust complaint. And if you're wondering what the heck is going on between these two companies, you're not alone. So in this video, I'm going to break down the whole ordeal piece by piece and help you understand how this situation began, where it's at today, and what could happen in the near future. This is Greg with Apple Explained, and I want to thank Squarespace for sponsoring this video. If you want to help decide which video topics I cover, make sure you're subscribed, and these voting polls will show up in your mobile activity feed. Now, this whole battle started last summer, when Spotify sent out emails to their iPhone subscribers informing them that they could save $3 a month by paying their subscription fee directly to Spotify rather than through Apple's App Store. Because if you didn't already know, there were a few ways for Apple users to sign up for Spotify Premium. They can do it on Spotify's website, through Spotify's desktop application, and through Spotify's iPhone app. But not all of these methods are created equal. If you sign up on Spotify.com or through the desktop application, the subscription costs $10 a month. But if you sign up through the iPhone app, Spotify Premium would cost $13 a month. And this is because Spotify is trying to offset the 30% fee Apple collects on all payments made through their App Store. But if you do the math, you'll realize that 30% of $12.99 is $3.89, which means Spotify is earning about $9.10 on all payments made through the App Store, rather than $9.99 on payments made directly to them. So despite the $3 upcharge for App Store customers, Spotify is still losing money they could have otherwise made if Apple didn't charge any fees at all. Now, it'd be easy for Apple to argue that their 30% fee is fair in order to pay for the costs and infrastructure of the App Store, especially considering Google charges developers the same rate through the Google Play Store, but that would be an oversimplification of the issue. Because the 30% fee was only one of 5 policies that Spotify claimed were anti-competitive. The second was Apple not allowing developers like Spotify to put a link in their app to their website where customers could purchase a premium subscription for just $10 and bypass the 30% App Store fee. The third was Apple not allowing developers to even acknowledge that any other payment methods were available besides in-app purchases. The fourth was Apple not allowing developers to use an alternate payment system to the app stores. And fifth was Apple not allowing Spotify to inform iPhone users of promotional campaigns like the one last fall that offered new subscribers 3 months of Spotify Premium for $1 if they signed up through Spotify's website. So you can start to see how complex this situation is. Spotify isn't just asking for a lower payment processing fee, they're claiming that Apple is abusing their power as owners of the App Store by suppressing competition that could threaten the growth of their own services like Apple Music. And that's exactly why Spotify filed an antitrust complaint with the European Union back in March, claiming that Apple was suppressing consumer choice and stifling innovation due to the App Store's anti-competitive policies. Spotify even launched a press campaign called Time to Play Fair, which outlined the problems they had with Apple's behavior. And with all of this pressure piling up, Apple decided to issue a response to Spotify's accusations in the form of a press release titled Addressing Spotify's Claims. In it, Apple made some interesting arguments. For example, they explain how the App Store's policies aren't discriminatory towards Spotify in particular since they apply to all developers, saying the only contribution that Apple requires is for digital goods and services that are purchased inside the app using our secure in-app purchase system. As Spotify points out, that revenue share is 30% for the first year of an annual subscription, but they left out that it drops to 15% in the years after. That's not the only information Spotify left out about how their business works. The majority of customers use their free ad-supported product, which makes no contribution to the App Store. A significant portion of Spotify's customers come through partnerships with mobile carriers. This generates no App Store contribution, but requires Spotify to pay a similar distribution fee to retailers and carriers. Even now, only a tiny fraction of their subscriptions fall under Apple's revenue sharing model. Spotify is asking for that number to be 0. And while Apple made a fair point, they didn't acknowledge the other arguments Spotify was making, because while the Google Play Store does charge developers the same 30% fee, it doesn't impose some of the other restrictions that the App Store does. For example, it allows developers to link to a subscription page outside the store, and it's important to point out that the Google Play Store isn't the only way to download apps to an Android device. You can actually go into settings and allow Android devices to install unknown apps from a variety of sources, which gives Spotify another way to deliver their app to users and avoid Google Play's payment fees. But there's no way to do this on iOS. Apple has the entire ecosystem chained to their App Store. And although there are benefits to this closed system, there are also problems, one of which Spotify is eager to point out since it works in their favor, and that is the anti-competition aspect. Now, this channel is called Apple Explained, and I am an Apple fan, but I always try to be unbiased and report the facts on whatever topic I'm covering. And I have to admit that when it comes to Apple's anti-competitive track record, it's pretty disappointing. Back in 2015, Apple, Google, Intel, and Adobe paid out $415 million to settle an anti-poaching class action lawsuit. It turns out they secretly agreed not to hire each other's employees, in addition to suppressing their workers' salaries, which is the very definition of anti-competition. In 2013, Apple was found guilty of an ebook price-fixing scheme in an effort to slow down Amazon's lead in the market and force them to raise their prices. Eddie Q met with book publishers and convinced them to adopt an agency pricing model, which would allow publishers to set ebook prices instead of retailers like Amazon. That way, all retailers would be forced to charge the $15 ebook price tag Apple wanted without being undercut. And it appears Apple is engaging in a similar practice today with their App Store. Spotify is fighting against a 30% payment fee, while Apple doesn't pay any fees on money from Apple Music subscribers. They're also able to limit what features Spotify adds to their iPhone app. Allegedly, Spotify tried adding Siri support, but Apple prevented that from happening. In their press release, Apple responded by saying, "When we reached out to Spotify about Siri and AirPlay 2 support on several occasions, they've told us they're working on it, and we stand ready to help them where we can." But the point is, Apple has that power over Spotify whether they decide to use it today or 5 years from now. And if you're thinking, well, the App Store is Apple's platform, so they have the right to make whatever rules they want, that actually isn't necessarily true from a legal perspective. Take Microsoft, for example. In 1998, the US Justice Department found the company guilty of violating antitrust laws by forcing computer manufacturers to include their own web browser as part of the Windows installation. Even though Microsoft created Windows, it was illegal to make the installation of their own web browser a rule. And I don't think that case is too far off from what we're seeing with Apple and their App Store today. Is Apple abusing their market share in the mobile storefront and devices market to give Apple Music an unfair advantage over Spotify? I think it's an important question worth considering, and one we'll likely get an answer to soon, as Spotify's antitrust complaint is deliberated by the European Union. But I don't want to make it seem as if all Spotify's claims are legitimate, because they have made some additional accusations in the past few months that are misleading at the very least. When it comes to their claims that Apple blocks Spotify app updates intentionally, that can easily be disproven. The company has been known to push the boundaries of Apple's App Store to see just how far the approval rules can be bent. So when Spotify turns around and uses that as evidence of Apple being anti-competitive, it simply weakens their case. The company has also complained about not having access to Apple's HomePod, even though no developer has that privilege. So I'd say it's a moot point until Apple actually opens up that platform. The last thing I want to point out is how Spotify tried to make it appear as if they were standing up for the whole music community by taking on Apple, while at the same time, Spotify sued music creators to prevent paying them higher royalties. So I think it'd be best for Spotify to drop the altruistic facade and just admit they're rightfully fighting for a level playing field in the music streaming industry. Now that I've tried explaining a fairly complex topic, let me share something with you that's simple and straightforward. Squarespace, the easiest platform to build the website you've always wanted. It's actually the service I use to make AppleExplain.com, and the reason why I decided on Squarespace is because it's a complete all-in-one solution. You pick a domain name, choose a template, and start designing your website, all without worrying about hosting or managing the technical aspects of a website. And when it comes to templates, I think it's safe to say Squarespace has the best on the market. They not only look beautiful on desktop and mobile, but customizing them is super easy. I also appreciate how much functionality Squarespace includes in their platform. I was actually able to register a custom email address for my YouTube channel, all from within Squarespace. And if I ever want to expand my site to include something like merchandise, I won't have to find another service for the e-commerce aspect, since that's also integrated right into Squarespace. So if you want your website building experience to be as simple as possible, go to squarespace.com for a free trial. And when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/AppleExplained to get 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Alright guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.